This is why focusing your mind is so important. This is why losing focus of your mind is so detrimental in any way that you want to think about it. Hello everyone and welcome once again to the channel. In this week's video, we will be taking a dive into the sign of Aries, which is the first sign of them all, and what it can mean for you to understand this part of your life. And if you can activate the Aries part of your life, what it's going to mean is that it will activate your whole life to a whole new level. So let's take a look. I am Mars Molina. I am a yoga professor and I am also a specialist in spirituality, and I've dedicated my life to the study and living the wisdom of the Vedas and everything that comes from that source. And of course, one of these is, of course, Jyotish, which is also known as the Vedic astrology, and how we can use these and other tools to navigate our lives in more harmony and to make it practical for today's day and age in a way that we can understand ourselves, our world, and our relationships better, so we can live a life of alignment, health, and prosperity. If you enjoy this video and if it is helpful for you, please give it a like, drop a comment below of what sign you would like to see next. Make sure to subscribe and share and all these things, because it is extremely useful, and I am always grateful for each and every single one of you who do that. So let me also take this moment to thank each and every single one of you for being here and watching these videos and subscribing and sharing, because it means the world to me, and I am forever grateful that you are part of this journey with me. So enough with the housekeeping. Let's take a look at the sign of Aries. And as I'm sure you all know, Aries is the first sign of astrology, and it is the same in Vedic astrology. It is the first sign. It is comprised of 3 different nakshatras, like all Vedic astrology signs, and these are Ashwini, Bharani, and Kritika. Now, by understanding Aries, we might be able to understand that all 12 zodiac signs, they are actually telling us a story. And this is one of the fascinating things of all astrology. And what story are these 12 signs telling us in these maybe 12 chapters? Well, it is the story of creation. It is the story of the universe. And when we understand the story of the universe, the story of creation, you understand the story of yourself, because you as an individual, you are not a part of the universe, you are the universe itself. So if you understand the wisdom, the fundamental, the core at creation, then you can understand more of yourself. So if Aries is the first sign, that would make it the beginning of the story, right? It is the first chapter. How does the story come to start? How does the story come to begin? This is what Aries tells us. And as you will understand, Aries is a sign that is related to impulse, beginning, creativity. It is the sign of beginnings. It is a sign of invention. It is a sign of pioneering. It is also a sign that is related to sexuality, but more on that a little bit later. So Aries is a sign of beginnings, and you will notice that the Aries people are the ones that are always starting things up. They are the ones that allow things to, well, really just begin and start moving forward. So you can imagine that this quality or this energy of Aries is extremely important. They are the ones that are at the spearhead of any organization. They are the impulse, once again. They are at the startup. They are at the launching of new endeavors, new initiatives, new projects. So you can understand how important that energy is, because you need that. You need that initial impulse to really get things going. They are the ones that are really to just jump and give 110% so that things can really start brimming with life. So we will see more of this as we go along and study the sign of Aries. And that's because we need someone like that. We need someone who will kick things into gear, and otherwise things will become just plans and ideas, and they won't spring forward. They won't come into life. So if you analyze this and you discover what's the area of your life that is ruled by Aries, then you can start seeing, well, if that area does not come into action, everything else in the life kind of gets stuck. But if you can bring action steps, and movement into this area, then your life starts moving into the direction of what your goals and aspirations are. Now, you should also know that Aries is what we call a fire sign. What does that even mean? Is that all 12 zodiac signs and all the nakshatras as well, they are associated to elements, right? This is an association. They can be associated to many other things, such as cardinal points and types of behaviors and so forth. But for now, let's keep with the elements, right? So there's a fire element, and all 12 signs are divided into these four elements, these groups that are the earth element, the air element, the water element, and the fire element. And it doesn't take a lot of thought to understand why Aries is a fire sign, right? If you know people who are Aries or who have strong Aries placement, then you can feel that very easily. You can get that at face value. The other fire signs are, of course, Leo and Sagittarius. And once again, if you think about who these people are in your life, or again, the area of your life where it is Sagittarius or it is Leo or it is Aries, you will see that that part of your life has a lot of fire. So it doesn't take a lot of effort. It's actually a very simple process to understand. But it is important to know that the fire of each of these signs is a little bit different. So they are all fire, but the fire of Sagittarius, the fire of Leo, the fire of Aries, they're all a little bit different. So, for example, the fire of Sagittarius is a fire that is intended to light up something in yourself that will also light up something in the other. It is a sign of guidance. It is like a beacon, right? And it always reminds me of that scene of the book and the movies of the Lord of the Rings when they light up the beacons of Gondor, and how one light takes to the next light, and then to the next light, and then to the next light, and then you know that you need to spring into action, and that action needs to be a very strong war-like action. So the fire of Sagittarius has a lot to do with this. Once again, the fire of Sagittarius is about guiding others, and you can also consider it the fire of a flare, right? Something that springs and shows you the direction, shows you important information, and it has a little bit of that kind of bellicose temperament. But the fire of Leo, on the other hand, the way that that behaves is more akin to a bonfire or a campfire, something that will make people gravitate towards it. And what happens when you're at the campfire or the bonfire, you connect with people. It's usually at the end of the day. It's usually a moment of wrapping things up, bonding, storytelling, connecting, cherishing, nourishing, putting more wood on the fire. It allows us to cook food as well. And it is also a moment of celebration. This is the type of fire that Leo has, a more sustained fire, while the fire of Sagittarius is more of a direct and directed fire. And again, Leo is about holding space. You can see easily why it is so important for Leo to be the center of attraction, attention, gravity, right? That is, again, the place in the community that we gather. Where do we put the campfire when we are in ancient communities? If you remember, that is always at the center of the town, at the center of all the tents. That is where you put the campfire, not far away, right? Again, that would be more like Sagittarius. So you put that at the center, and then everyone gathers and everyone bonds. So that's a little insight on Sagittarius and Leo fire. But what about the fire of Aries? What sort of fire do you think Aries is? If it's not a bonfire, a campfire, if it is not a beacon, if it's not a flare, what kind of fire is it? Well, the fire of Aries, it is actually more like a spark. And we could say it's like an explosion, but it would be more accurate to say that it is the spark, the initial contact of fire that will give way to the explosion as it comes into contact with something such as a gas or fuel. How do you say in English? I have the word written here somewhere. I forgot the word. Combustible fuel, right? So Yes, it is a spark, but the spark itself will not go very far. If you light up a match and the head of the match, the phosphorus, there is too small, you see a little bit of spark and then it dies out. It needs the structure of a little bit more phosphorus, a little bit more wood to burn. If we're talking about an explosion and gas, for example, it's not just about the spark and the gas coming into contact. If you're in a very open space like I am now, nothing much will happen. It will dissipate. But if it is contained, and this is why digging underground is so dangerous, or like in certain containers, then the fire means something more, right? If you have a lighter and you only do the spark, it's not enough. It needs a structure, it needs combustible, it needs fuel. That is a type of fire that Aries has. And if you just reflect on this, if you just reflect on the elements of each sign and how each sign carries that element in a specific way, you can start understanding a lot more about what this sign really is and what it can mean in your life. So again, if you look at the Sagittarius part of your life, you see that fire, how it behaves. You see the Leo part of your life, you see that fire and how it behaves. You see the Aries part of your life, see that fire, how it behaves. Same with all other signs. You look at the water, understand how the water of Cancer is different from the water of Scorpio, and look at your chart, understand those two, and then you realize, oh, I have a clear picture of a mirror of how I am behaving, what are my patterns, what are my possibilities, and therefore, with that knowledge, the beautiful thing is that we can now take that into the next step, right? Self knowledge. It's so beautiful, it's so powerful, and then it takes us into taking the steps that take that self knowledge into actions that will take us to freedom, liberation, health, prosperity, well being, all of the above. So reflect on these elements and see if you can gather more and more insight from it. So, once again, this is why I said at the beginning. So, once again, this is why at the beginning I said Aries is like that fire of starting the engine. Once again, reflect on the engine. It needs a container. You know, there are different chambers on it. It has a spark uh, when you hit the ignition. Again, it's an ignition, right? And you need a fuel. So it is something that creates a small but controlled series of explosions that then allows everything else to move. You will find that the Aries people in your life, again, people who are Aries or who have very strong Aries placement, they are like that. They're little firecrackers, and they always have that energy, that spark to them. So if you're running any type of organization or a business, and you understand what the Aries people in your organization or association or business, who they are, then you can find a good place for them, right? Oops. Because then what that means is that you can put them in the place that will bring always creativity, vitality, movement, starting things up. Aries is the sign of creation. It is a rising fire. It is a bursting flame of creativity that brings forth everything else. And of course, it is what brings forth new life. And this is why Aries is, in a very unique way, associated to sexuality. So, here I want to discuss one of the secrets of astrology. As you may know, each sign, each planet, and each nakshatra, each part of the understanding of astrology, there are all these symbols. There are signs like Aries, Taurus, and then there are symbols. What does that mean? The symbol for Taurus is a bull or the head of a bull, and it is drawn in a particular way. Usually, like a circle with the horns, and sometimes the horns are like a little curve many times. And when people draw them like a curve, it means something. When people draw them as more straight lines, it means a different thing. Aries is represented by a ram. The symbol of Aries is the ram's head. I'll try to edit the video in a way that I can put it up in the screen. And if you look at the ram's head, you'll start noticing that it looks exactly like the yoni, the female reproductive organ in its entirety. It looks like the matrix of creation through which each and every single one of us came to be on this earth. So those themes are extremely relevant and extremely important for the Aries person or the Aries part of your life, the Aries native. What's beautiful about astrology or really any form of self-knowledge is that if you commit yourself to understanding things deeply and you have good intentions, what will happen is that your good focus will allow that in which you are focusing to become good. And there is a next step to that process. First, you have good intention, then you have good focus, then that object of your focus becomes good itself, and then there's a final step in which is that all of these things combine and you yourself become full of goodness. This is something that has been known since ancient times. This is why focusing your mind is so important. This is why losing focus of your mind is so detrimental in any way that you want to think about it. And Plotinus, the philosopher, spoke about this 1,755 years ago. He wrote it in a very Western, beautiful way. Have good focus, then that in which you focus will become good, and then you yourself will become the goodness. In this case, I am using Jyotish or astrology to explore that myself, but you can do it in anything that you want. This is why people who become really fixated on really mastering something with good intentions, they themselves have a certain goodness to them. So whatever it is that your mind, your energy wants to focus on, let your intentions be good. And in the case of astrology, if you use it well, you can use it to focus on yourself with good intentions, and you become beautified, and you become, what's the word in English that I'm thinking of? Beautified came, and it is a proper word. Uh, but you also, I can't find the word in English, but you also become sanctified. Good intentions and good focus. And in this case, you do it through astrology. You understand that there are signs and there are symbols to the symbols. You go through the layers, you go to a deeper layer, deeper layer, deeper layer, and your whole life just starts harmonizing more. I'm going a bit of a direction here that I wasn't planning on in my script, but this is also why you will see that certain people in your life, or you yourself may have experienced this, when they start studying the Bible or any sacred scripture, when they start understanding their garden with good intentions, like I mentioned, when they start studying astrology or when they start studying philosophy, usually things of good, grounded nature, things just change for them. Their character just change. They become kind of saintly people. But anyways, that's just something that came out and may be important for you or someone to know. So going back to this notion of sexuality and the female reproductive organ with Aries, is that of course you can understand Aries, and the Aries part of your life is closely linked to, once again, sexuality, creativity, sexual desire, lubrication, pleasure, orgasm. And I say these things literally, but you can also understand them metaphorically. The orgasm of life, the pleasure of life, the stimuli of life, how you stimulate yourself. It is, of course, also very related to women. It is very related to mother and grandmother. It is related, of course, to pregnancy, procreation, and childbirth. So if you're an Aries native, these things will always be very important for you, and they will be catalysts for crucial, important things and themes in your life. The Aries part of your life will have a lot to do about this. So my recommendation is to reflect on this, and if you notice that whatever Aries is in your chart, or you're an Aries native, throughout these experiences, if you can have harmony in these experiences, if you can have contentment, if things are satisfied, if things are well, then that means that you have done such a great job in evolving. Maybe it's something that you've been doing in this lifetime or from previous lifetimes, but I would have to congratulate you, because that means that these things are okay. That means that you have evolved. If, on the other hand, you find some obstacles there, meaning that perhaps when if you're a woman, you become pregnant and things become very chaotic, there's something for you to look at there. If you're a man and you're Libra, and your partner becomes pregnant, and then something starts stirring in your life in a less than desirable way, there's something to be observed there. Of course, your relationship to your mother and grandmother, if you're an Aries native. But if Aries is somewhere else in your chart, then you need to see that connection between that house, where Aries sits in your chart, and mother, women. Your relationship again to creativity. I think I wrote this in my notes somewhere. If you're a Cancer person, your work needs to have that creativity. Or maybe you're a nurse and you deal with pregnant women, so you see the link there. It's already there. It's already there in your professional field. But if you're not a nurse and caring for pregnant women, right, you'll still see that when that element of Aries is missing, things just aren't moving professionally for you. But on the other hand, if you have that element there, maybe you work with women, maybe you have a lot of creativity and constant explosions and bursts of creativity, Cancer, then you will see that that business goes well, professional life goes well, fame goes well, prosperity goes well. If you're a Cancer person, Aries sits in your 10th house. So if that element is missing, that harmony will be missing. Now, what do I mean when I say the Aries part of your life? If you remember, a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I recorded a video in which I show you how I look at your chart. And if you watch this video, you'll be able to understand what I mean when I say the Aries part of your life, the Leo part of your life, the whatever part of your life, because there I explain how you can find your Vedic astrology chart, how you can not interpret but read your Vedic astrology chart. And the beautiful part of this is that then you can understand what I mean, and then you can start putting two and two together and notice where the Aries sits in your life. So if you haven't watched that video, I will put it at the end so you can go watch it and know what it is meant by me or really anybody else. When you get a reading with me, you also get a report and a chart that you can see exactly what I talk about in that video. And once again, you'll be able to see, oh, this is where Aries sits in my chart. I am a Libra, so it sits in the opposite, which is the 7th house Aries. There you go. Or I am a Cancer, so Aries sits in my 10th house, and it means something else. And you'll be able to understand yourself all the better than last time, deeper. Now, this Aries part of your life, or if you're an Aries ascendant, it comes with many blessings. It comes with all that power, that creativity, but it also comes with some challenges that it is important to understand and to navigate to the best of your capacity. In this area of your life, you will be stubborn. You will be impulsive, too impulsive. You will be restless. You will be a little bit immature. You'll be a little bit forceful. You'll be a little bit mean. Or you may have this duality in which one second you're the sweetest and then the other second you're very, very mean about it. It is also a part that may have some mental, quite a lot, mental restlessness about it. It is, again, an area in which you will be hard-headed, you will be rushing, you will be impatient. You see, astrology is not as simple as saying, like, yeah, Aries is impatient, Taurus is patient. It never works like that. You will see that if you really want to understand a person, or if you're a person who really wants to understand themselves, we are all impatient. We're just impatient about different things. And then you're patient about something. And that's when you realize that people have very many layers. Some people are very spiritual about certain things. Some people are very spiritual about other things, right? So we are all signs. We are all Aries. We are all impatient. But where are you impatient, and how is that happening? You need to look at your chart. So wherever Aries is in your chart, you need to learn to control. You need to learn to have patience. Think once again of the ram. The ram fights by butting heads to one another, right? And they have these horns. I'm going to talk about the horns in a second. But you need to learn to take this part of Aries in your life and bring it into discipline. It has that power there, actually. It has that potential there. No one is 100% undisciplined. No one is 100% lazy. If they can discover where the Aries part of their life is and they can overcome these challenges, everything else just has more power, more vitality. So by doing structure, by doing discipline, by doing organization, you create that scaffold, that system that allows these several tiny explosions of Aries to have a place where they have an effect. Otherwise, it's just firecrackers in the sky. Pretty meaningless, pretty effortless. Or it falls on the wrong place, dry wood, dry forest, and lo and behold, now you have a raging forest fire. The rage of Aries, right? So you need to understand that if you allow yourself to create this discipline, it becomes a beautiful thing for Aries. I would say this is also why Aries people can sometimes lose heart and lose faith because they say, well, I've been doing all this effort. I've been working so hard. Look, I did this effort there, this effort there, this effort there. And then you realize that they're all over the place. No, you need organization. And if you can have faith in the form of discipline, Aries, that's where you thrive. That's where you grow. That's where you'll find that prosperity. But you need, once again, you need that system. You need that organization. And just to wrap up about this area of your life as well, wherever Aries is in your chart, it is an area in which you will also experience aggressiveness. You may also experience lust, a lot of pleasure, a lot of desire for pleasure. This is neither good or bad, but it does depend on how you manage it. And very importantly, not just how you manage it, but how much are you thinking and overthinking about it, and how much are you actually, I don't know if that was recorded, but just a hummingbird flashing by, right? It's a perfect example. How much are you actually going, rushing? How much are you actually doing? Action is important because you see, I feel like my eyes are very closed now that I say see because I have the light right here. It's really bright, so maybe I should put the light a little bit somewhere else. But once again, the horns of the ram, you see how they are? They are circular, right? They are swirling. They're not like the horns that you see for Capricorn. That are more like a drill, or the horns of the bull, which once again are like a scythe, like a moon, creating that curve. Or sometimes you'll see the horns of Taurus going to the sides like this, and then up. No, the horns of Aries are swirling like this. Aries has that. Actually, one of the common things that we say for health troubles for Aries is mental health. Many kinds of mental afflictions, because the energy of the mind of Aries does like the horns. It is swirling, regurgitating over and over. It creates a vortex. The word vortex in English comes from Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, they call it vritti, vortex, vritti. And this vritti is normally used to refer to the behavior of the mind of just going and swirling over and over, swimming in the same crap over and over again, pointless, useless. When I teach meditation, this is one of the first things that I bring attention to, that we need to master. The tendency of the mind to be circling and regurgitating nonsense. But I don't want to go too deep into that because then it'll take me 10 years to talk. But the key for Aries, and this is why they're impatient, is that they keep thinking, and they think that they are doing by thinking, but they're not doing anything. Rather, what you should do is realize, okay, I have these thoughts. Not only am I able to direct the thoughts to the direction that I choose, and perhaps there's a better direction to take my thoughts to, but also how much am I overthinking about it? Let me not overthink about it and just bring those thoughts down. Let's bring that energy down, because it's energy. The mind is energy, in case you hadn't noticed. And you bring that power down to the heart and to the physical body, and then you do an action. Do an action instead. If you're an Aries, you'll see that this is why Aries people benefit so much from physical activity, workout. You will even hear them say, when I go rock climbing, to the gym, when I go fight, when I go around, whatever it is, I feel like I can get my mind off of things. It's true. And for the Aries part of your life, you need that. You need action. Look at wherever Aries is in your chart and bring action to that. And you will notice the results. So Don't let the mind, Aries, be swirling like this all the time. The mind will do some of that, and to some reasonable, deliberate measure, it's okay. Be aware. But then, as soon as you realize it's too much, or that it's doing this without your approval, because you are the master of the mind and not the other way around, then bring it down and say, okay, let me do an action instead. Let me not think about what I will achieve one day. Let me take the steps towards what my goals and desires are. That's the Aries part of you. That's the Aries part of your life. This ties also with the fact that Aries is a sign ruled by a planet, which is Mars, which is understood as Mangal in Sanskrit. And I think I spoke about this in my last video about Mars in Libra. But Mangal, or Mars, it also means splendor. Wherever Aries sits in your chart, it is an area in which you can really benefit from competition. You'll see that Mars represents action. And this is what one action from one person and then another action from another person, they both have an effect. This is what gives rise to competition. So wherever Aries is in your chart, I implore you, if you really want to take your life to a next level, take that and put that into competition. Think about it like a competitive sport or a competitive game or a competitive video game, if you will. And here's the secret. Any sport, game, or video game that is competitive, what does it also have? It has rules, it has structure, it has organization. That's why when we are in fierce competition, we don't like when people break the rules and cheat, right? You want the rules to be followed. So wherever Aries is in your chart, create a rule book for yourself. Follow that rule book. Do not break it. And again, you put that thought into action, and you start noticing that your life starts falling into these lanes, and you start bouncing the energy into these lanes, and it just propels. Again, tiny little concentrated, focused, deliberate explosions. This is a secret recipe to starting something new that is positive in the Aries part of your life. And I like to talk here about how these mountain goats and rams, of course, represent Aries. I want to bring attention to the mountain goats that climb the sheer cliffs, and it doesn't look like they can. It looks like it's so steep that there's no possible way that they can climb, but they do, and they go all the way to the top, and they eat the grass, and they lick the stones to get the minerals. I think that's what I remember that they do. Aries, it's the same thing, right? This wall of structure, regulations, and systems that they put for themselves. It can be easy at first, but then it becomes harder and harder to climb, steep, 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 and that is how they just find a way to become incredibly creative, eccentric. They become pioneers. They have the wildest ideas sometimes. Like, what if we do it, but we do everything wrong and it works? What if we do it like this? And it's the same. Think about Olympic sports or any competitive sport. It is the same thing, right? You see, they want to win against the wall of opponents and the wall of thousands of years of people competing in the same thing before. And what do you want to do? You want to go higher. You want to break the record. That record is that wall. This is what you need to do in the Aries part of your life. Don't leave it unsupervised. It's a first sign. So it's like a child. You don't leave a child unsupervised. You need to give the child structure. Otherwise, they become crazy rascals like myself and probably you who's watching this video as well. So if you've ever felt like your life just doesn't have drive, doesn't have juice, look at that. I don't know if you could hear that. It doesn't have that revving engine. It is very likely, no matter who you are, no matter what your sign, ascendant, whatever it is very likely that this Aries part of your life is not turned on. How to turn on the Aries part of your life? Well, you need challenge. You need to bring a little bit of flair to it. You need to bring a little bit of flavor to it. It needs that juice. It needs that competition. It needs that creativity. Again, sexuality is there. So there's an element of seduction, beauty, desire. You need to bring these areas into the Aries part of your life, and you will notice how life just becomes much more vibrant and much more full of life. And that is what I desire for you. So if ever you feel like that, things aren't moving, there's no passion, there's no life, there's no juice, do me a favor, look at the Aries part of your chart. Find where that is, work on that. Give it a month, and I can guarantee that you will see something else come forth. And that is what I hope for each and every single one of you. So, everyone, this is my analysis of the secrets and revelations of the sign of Aries that have come to me today. There's a lot more that we could say, but this is what I chose would be a good starting point to kind of get a baseline understanding of the sign, or refresher if you already knew some of these things. If you have enjoyed this video, like it and tell me what sign you want to see next. You can comment below. If you go out of your way to comment below and just tell me, that would be extremely useful. You have no idea how much that helps. And I'm excited to see you next week to see what is next. And a couple last things before we go. I think I already said like, subscribe, share, all these things. Join my newsletter. You are able to join my newsletter. And also, yes, I just announced that I am already one of the teachers who is available for you to meditate with in the Insight Timer app. So if you haven't checked that out, I strongly advise you and recommend you to try it out. It's an amazing app that you can use to meditate. It has so many interesting features, and now you can find me featured there, where I already have a few meditations up that if you take them, it actually uses your breath as a powerful program for you to enter into meditation and get some harmony in your life, your mind, your heart, your emotions, and really beautiful meditation to support your physical health as well. So that is all I have to say today. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your presence. I hope you have an amazing week ahead of you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.